Hi, I want to interrupt your work on the letter to the author and talk just a little bit about They Say, I Say, Chapter 4, and the next paper that you're going to be writing after you're done with the letter. This is a miniature research paper. Now, don't panic. You're not going to prove anything. We don't have that much time. And quite honestly, I never ask students to do something that's super in-depth. You're going to prove a topic, prove an argument in English 115. It just doesn't work that way. But what you are going to do is start with a claim from one of the texts we've been reading, and then you're going to find some outside sources, and you're going to draw some conclusions about a claim from that paper. And those conclusions that you're going to draw from the research will take a position, not necessarily a position you already had, but one that comes from the research. And that's why I want to talk about They Say, I Say, Chapter 4. I am not going to have you read this chapter unless you want to, and it could be useful. I just want to talk about 3 ways you can add to a conversation. Now, here is a picture of asparagus, and I love asparagus. And my claim is that asparagus is a very, very wonderful vegetable to eat. And some of you will disagree. And you can disagree, and you should explain why. If you just say, nah, you're wrong, then the conversation doesn't really go anywhere. You could agree with me. And if you just agree with me, again, the conversation doesn't go anywhere. So Graff and Birkenstein say if you're going to agree, if your research agrees, you have to add something new to that conversation. Agree with a difference is how they describe it. It might be an explanation about why asparagus is an awesome vegetable to eat. It's an explanation that adds to my reasons why asparagus is great to eat, or it adds additional evidence to my reasons why asparagus is great to eat. It might add new examples, and it might have brand new reasons that I never even provided. But it's agree with a difference. It's agreement and adding something new. And your research could start with a claim from one of the texts, and you could find research that agreed. But it needs to add something new explanations, new evidence, new examples, new reasons. We could take my claim, asparagus is an awesome vegetable to eat, and you could agree and disagree. I agree that it's great, but a lot of children don't like it. Or I agree that it's wonderful, but I can't really think of any other reasons. I really love asparagus. Or you could disagree. You could say asparagus tastes terrible and children don't like it, but I agree that it's very healthy for them. And so it's that agree and disagree. Now, just a little bit more about this research paper. And this will help you with the discussion board question. First of all, research is about discovery. It's not about finding sources that prove the point that you already have. For that reason, you start with questions. Questions that you don't know the answers to. And you don't know if your research will disagree, agree, or agree and disagree until you do the research. Some possible questions you might ask is, in what ways does food production harm the planet? Now, that's a really broad question, so you might narrow it, as Chef Dan Barber did. In what ways does fish production harm the planet? In what ways could fish production be used to protect the planet? How can food production help sustain cultural values? Again, you could narrow it. How can food production help sustain my values in my culture? There are lots and lots of questions that you can ask. And so you want to think about the claims that stand out to you from the text that you might want to do research on and start asking questions. I want you to note that none of these questions are yes or no questions. It's just in what ways, how, why, what are some reasons? Are there other reasons? And those are the kinds of questions that you're going to be asking. This is a quick research paper. You're starting with a claim or an example or a piece of evidence from one of the texts. You're going to use 3 outside sources. Your research isn't going to prove anything. You're just seeking new understanding related to your question. Nevertheless, you're going to have a thesis, and your evidence will agree to some degree. Or disagree with some degree, or agree and disagree with the claim from the original source. Now, as I'm explaining all this, you might say, that's great, but she didn't say a lot. And that is true, I didn't. I gave you the basics out of that chapter. And so you might want to take a look at chapter 4 from They Say, I Say for expanded explanations of the basic ideas or templates that can help you word your analysis. That's it. And we are